Hi, I'm Joan Cartan Hansen. Thank you for joining us for this dialogue with Estra. We're talking with Calvin Trillin. So, what do you think of the presidential race that it has it shaping up so far?
Well, it's very entertaining. And you know, people in the small joke trade, which is part of what I do, we feel the same way about things that are entertaining, might not be too good for the country, as dentists feel about tooth decay. You'd say, well, it's a pity, but where would business be without it?
That's right. What do you have a favorite Republican presidential candidate?
Well, my favorites were, of course, the people whose names were good rhymes. Perry,
Yeah.
who I think I rhymed him at one point with the space between his ears, they say, is airy. And he rhymes with a lot more than that. And Herman Cain was an excellent rhyme, not to speak of a colorful character. And so they seem to be, and Michelle, I wrote a poem, Michelle, that was sort of to the tune of Michelle, the Beatles song, My Belle. Those were good. I mean, not as good as Ross Perot. He was one of the perfect candidates, a nice iambic beat with a good rhyme. Although John McCain was good too.
Yeah, John McCain would have
John
a nice.
McCain was good. Romney is. I did a lot of Mitt rhymes. Romney's not a good rhyme, and also I felt I've sort of had what I had to say about Romney in 2008. I did a poem that was, yes, Mitt's so slick of speech and slick of garb, he reminds us all of Ken and Barbie, so quick to shed his moderate regalia, he may, like Ken, be lacking genitalia. And I figure, well, that's pretty much what I have to say about Romney. And I've written probably dozens of poems about Gingrich over the years, but
Yes, blast from the
Newt,
past.
yeah, Newt's good for rhymes.
So, what rhymes well with Newt?
Kaput, suit,
Yeah.
root, unless you're from the Midwest, we say root.
Yeah. Do you? I understand you're working on another epic poem about this.
Well, I'm thinking
race.
of doing one for I haven't quite committed myself to doing it, but I think I will do it on the 2012. I wrote a book called Deciding the Next Decider, which was a long narrative. Well, let's not be afraid of the word epic here. A long epic poem, interrupted by poems that I had written over the course of the campaign. So I think I might do the same thing. I like this sort of span of it after writing short poems for a long time.
Are there certain events that typically happen in the course of a campaign that you wait for because they become good fodder for poetry?
Oh yeah, I mean, certainly the inability of Perry to think of the third government agency he was going to eliminate. The poem I wrote, I think it was this week, it's called Lamentations of the Late Night Comics. It's about Cain leaving and how they're all just crying about what are they going to do without Cain. And he's had a couple of moments like that. And the Libya moment was obviously one. They're often sort of goofs, and I think it's partly because they've just been on television so much in these debates, and they get flustered, and they although the Libya thing was in an interview, but I thought it was interesting that sexual harassment and what sounded to me like sexual assault didn't seem to bother Herman Cain's supporters, but a consensual affair, even though it was an illicit affair, got him out of there. So, yeah, I think there are moments that are often bad moments for the candidates, or good moments for us.
Do you think you can project who will be the GOP nominee?
No, I don't know. Well, the people, people who pontificate on Sunday talk shows, the people I call the Sabbath gasbags, now seem to think it's going to be Newt, or most of them do. I think the White House would prefer that, probably.
Oh.
Although, I don't know, it's still, it's one of those things you say you really want a man like that to be even close to being president. It's kind of a question.
Do you think that President Obama is, I don't know, chomping at the bit to get started because he has because of the field of candidates in the Republican primary?
Well, I think that what looked really bad for him a couple of months ago, or a few months ago, before this sort of bozo parade started, is looking better. I mean, he had a very, very, I think, historically low approval rating. I mean, he couldn't have been looking forward to the election a few months ago. But I think the more you see of the opposition, I think the better his chances get.
Why isn't there someone like even John McCain running this time?
Well, I think that the conventional wisdom is that the Tea Party and that sort of thing has moved the party so far to the right that in the primaries people have to either say things they don't believe or they have to believe really weird things. Recently, one of the New York Times columnists just had a column to that effect. It's certainly, if the moderator asks a question, who among you would be willing to do one more, I think it was 10% tax increase for 100% cuts in the government, or 10 to 1, or so, however they put it. Nobody raised his hand. In other words, there's no. They've all signed the pledge. It's like a religion or something. It doesn't have anything to do with reality, and I think that the people who, I mean, they looked at people who were, I think, more electable. Even Chris Christie, Mitch Daniels, these people who didn't want to do it, and for, I don't know if it was for that reason or not, but these are people who, and I don't doubt that somebody like Ron Paul obviously just believes what he believes, and Rick Santorum believes what he believes, and those people, Michelle Bachmann definitely believes that. But so those are the kind of people you get who, and the people you think of as sort of center-right Republicans who believe in less government, who believe various perfectly respectable beliefs, aren't able to run.
I read in an interview where you complained that journalists have turned it into nothing but a horse race. Is there any way around that, or is that just human nature?
I don't think so, because it is human nature, and I've always said the political coverage campaign coverage is 80% about who is going to win, not whose policies is this or whose policy is. It's 80% who's going to win, and if all reporters were death rated, and I hope they're not, some of them are friends of mine, we'd know that anyway at the election. I mean, they're not saying anything that isn't going to be known to every single person in the country on election night, and the reason is it's more interesting, and that's, in the same way some of this up and down is the fault of the candidates, but some of it is the press. Some of it is and for instance, Ron Paul, I think, has been undercovered.
And he has such a great rhyming name.
Paul is a nice name, and in Iowa, the silly straw poll that Michelle Bachmann won, he was about 1 percentage point behind. So why wasn't the story Ron Paul? I mean, it's just because Ron Paul was from the start. He's a libertarian who kind of sticks with his views, and he's not going to get the Republican nomination. And it doesn't make a kind of a horse race thing out of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's partly the press box, but it's, you know, most people, most reporters, like most citizens, sort of enjoy politics and hate government. I mean, as far as being interested in it. I mean, if you've ever sat through, say, a congressional hearing on farm price supports or something, it's not very scintillating stuff. You're much better off saying who's up, who's down, who's. I mean, there's a piece in the book about how they cover George W. Bush's time in his ranch, in Texas, about, well, he had scrambled eggs. It's seen as a victory for the president. I mean, or he lost in golf, which was a defeat for the president. Except it's all you can interpret anything that way, and so a lot of it is who's up and who's down, rather than what happened.
But it gives us a living.
Can't complain. It's better than work.
Mr. Trillin, thank you. I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, Joe.
And thank you for joining us for this Dialogue Web Extra.